Welcome to Dragonheart. I am Chay. I am joined by Matt Griffiths. It's almost Christmas time. The goose is getting fat, whatever that means. How are you, Mark?
Not too bad, absolutely. It's not just the goose that's getting fat, I tell you. I'm making a pretty good stab at it as well. And I'm hoping for Christmas so I could do even better.
Yeah, same here. I've started eating too many mince pies already. Probably should slow down. There's still a few days to go for Christmas.
Oh, pace yourself. Marginal gains and all that. It's that one mince pie less that you eat on Wednesday. That means you can eat an extra turkey on Sunday.
Exactly. I'm calling it bulking season, not getting fat. We've got a very busy show today. We've got the Gloucester game to look back at, which has a lot of talking points, to be fair. I think a lot of people would like to hear about that game, as a lot of people didn't go. Implications of COVID and a few other things. So yeah, should be a really interesting show. So this is Dragonheart.
Hi guys, I'm Dominic Vose and this is Dragonheart.
Gloucester, a real spectacle and a really enjoyable game for everyone who went. It was actually, commentary-wise, one of the most games I've enjoyed this season, to be fair, because I've actually gone into the game relaxed, not really worried about the full-time result. And to be fair, the boys delivered.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? Admittedly, the opposition wasn't anywhere near full strength, but you can only beat what's put in front of you. Gloucester, I thought, made a good fist of it, but yeah, ultimately, we did show a lot of the qualities that we have, and we continue to look so threatening down the wings, don't we, with those wing backs?
Oh yeah, Cameron Green looked excellent on Saturday. I thought got himself in the right positions. I think, he's not going to get that room. He's not going to get that time on the ball like he does in a National League game, because he was wide open a lot of the times, wasn't he? And Bryce Hosanna was excellent down the other wing, but lacked that little bit of end product, which I think has been the case with him a lot this season. But I think once he irons out a lot of the issues that he has and starts producing end products, as in going for goal or swinging in crosses, he's going to be a real dangerous player.
Oh, yeah. We talked about it last week, didn't we? Saying about how that end product's the thing he's got to add to his game. But he's still young. And it's got to be said as well, he's been playing on the wrong flank all along. So switching over to his correct side, I know should feel very natural, but he hasn't played there for a while. So maybe needed to settle into that a little bit. But his pace was terrifying. It was brilliant seeing him getting the ball, especially in that first half, when he just take a touch and then just knock it and try and burst past purely on speed alone. So exciting to see a player playing for Wrexham who can do that. And the fact is, we've got him, Hall Johnson and Green, who can all do that. So it's, it shows, I suppose, to some extent that, in contrast with other managers we've had in the past, naming no names, Gary Mills, it's good to have a picture in your head of the sort of football you want to play. Admittedly, Green and Hall Johnson were inherited by Parkinson, but he's brought Bryce Hosanna in as well. And clearly, especially since Hall Johnson's come back to fitness, we've prioritised that pace down the flanks. And it's become a sort of trademark of the way that we play. And I don't think it's any coincidence when you look at the actual results that we've basically, since Hall Johnson came back in for that Harrogate Cup game, we've embarked on a fantastic run. Is it 5 wins and 7? Something like that?
Yeah.
So since we've really gone, prioritising that pace down either both sides, we really have started to put those results and some convincing performances together.
And I'd also like to say, having Tyler French as right wing back also wasn't a terrible option. He played really well. I just think maybe it's a circumstance of gelling with him as well. And maybe he's better as a right-sided centre-back rather than a wing-back. But yeah, it is no coincidence. But do you think Cameron Green could be pushing to that left wing-back as a start?
I'd like to think so, because I really would like to see him given a fair crack at the whip. I think he's, I've consistently said, haven't I rate him as a player. He's a very good athlete as well. And I yeah, I would like to see him given opportunities. Although having said that, Bryce Hosanna's doing very well over there. I think that maybe the key thing here is that they're both quite young, and that perhaps there'll come a point where one of them needs a rest and the other one can come in and be very like for like. Because Green, although he's left-footed, does like coming inside as well as Hosanna does onto his right foot. So they have similar movement as well as similar characteristics like pace. I think Hosanna's maybe a touch quicker, but then Green maybe is a touch more technical. So no, but they're similar, aren't they? Like I said, unlike French and Record, who are very different types of wing back or full back, and that's there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's good to have different types of players as well for different situations in a game or in a season, but it's sort of counting against them at the moment simply because we really are looking to use our wing backs as fast outlets, aren't we? They play much more in a transition now, and French is a threat going forwards, but not in terms of surging down with extreme pace, more in terms of getting up the pitch early and winning diagonals and heading them into the box and getting involved that way. But he did very well.
French is like a wide target man sometimes, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's quite strange, isn't it? But it works. It's quite effective. But yeah, and also having Record and French as that different style. Say we're getting pen back, and we need a bit of experience. We're say 1-0 up. We need to hold a lead against Notts County or one of the better sides. Maybe you do stick on Record for that little bit more experience defensively as well.
The trouble for him is that he's not getting onto the bench, is he?
Yeah.
Say, for example, if French isn't starting, French is an obvious choice for the bench simply because he's got that versatility. So you can use him centre-back, you can use him wing-back, full-back. Whereas Record is going to be left-sided defender, well, maybe left-sided in the three. But, French's versatility means he's always there for those occasions. So that's the problem for Record. At the moment, he's third in the list, isn't he?
Yeah.
And of course, we could in January look to bring in an experienced left wing back to augment the young lads we have, which would put them in a sticky situation.
Yeah, it would, which is unfortunate for Jamie Record because I think he has been quite solid when he's played this season. I don't think he's done anything necessarily wrong. I just think Bryce Hosanna and Cameron Green are just better for how we play. I think if we played the back four, maybe Jamie Record would be better as a left back.
Yeah, it's a change in style of play, change in emphasis, isn't it? Which is going against him rather than I think anything particular that he's done. But it is working. So at the moment, he's facing a bit of a scrap to get back in, isn't he? Yeah,
he is. But you never know. Anyone can stake their claim with a couple good games on the bounce, couldn't they? So it's nice to have. I think competition's great.
Well, Green looked gone, didn't he? Him and Green had only got on the pitch for about 5 minutes before that Harrogate game. But he's now worked his way back in, which is great. Like I said, I really like him. And
exactly. And there's one thing I want to say right now, and we are 5, 6, 7 minutes into our conversation. We're talking about the Gloucester game, and we haven't even talked about Jordan Davies yet.
What a god. Oh, he was magnificent, wasn't he? Wow, that first goal, just outrageous. And then the one he tried,
the one with the outside the foot.
Oh, that was the second goal. That wasn't it? Beg your pardon.
That was the second goal. Yeah,
the second goal. Yeah,
the first goal was like that volley, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a tough technique, and he could have scored a lot more. He could have scored 4 or 5. He just looked that touch above everyone else on the pitch that day, didn't he?
He was really bossing the game, wasn't he? He was just getting the ball, just driving forwards, making things happen. It was just fabulous to watch. Possibly the best individual performance by a Wrexham player this season. He certainly was.
Yeah, and I think you have to remember that we were playing a weak side, and I'd like to say this now. I'd like to say Gloucester for the first 20 minutes really give us a good game. I actually don't think for the first 25 minutes they were the worst side I've seen at the racecourse this season. They I think Weymouth played worse football then. They were trying to play football from the back. They were a young side. They were a young side anyway, even their first team without COVID. They're a very young and experienced side. They had a keeper who have not played with the defence, and you could see that was quite evident. It was quite evidently clear. So all credit to Gloucester. They really give us a competitive game in parts.
I can have nothing but praise for Gloucester. I thought it was absolutely superb. I mean, the fact that they played the game, because they could have called her off. I know they didn't want a fixture backlog, and I know, as they rightly said, it could get even worse for them. But oh yeah, I thought their attitude was fantastic. Like you said, they looked to play. They had a very clear strategy with that diamond in midfield and really congesting the middle of the pitch and making it difficult for us to play our way through it. And for the first 20 minutes, it worked extremely well, didn't it? They didn't have any real threats, but they really restricted us going forwards. But I was pleased then to see that. Well, I mean, my concern in home games this season has been that when teams have sort of worked us out, we've struggled to adapt to that and find a new way to trouble them. But here we did. We were patient. We moved the ball around, and we just waited patiently for that switch to come on so we could work the flanks. And once we really started to make that happen, it was game over, wasn't it? Because we overwhelmed them. But hats off to them. They're young players. I hope they had a great experience, and their fans. There's a lot of people to come across that distance in these circumstances, knowing that it's going to be a very weakened team, and they kept going to the end. I got a huge amount of respect for Gloucester after that. So.
Yeah, it wasn't just the let's stick a target man on, hoof it up and hope and hit. They actually really tried to play football. So yeah, credit to them and good luck to them for the rest of the season. Yeah, it was a really fascinating game. There's a lot of talking points considering it was just an FA Trophy game, because we have Kwame Thomas who started and played 70 minutes, and he looked like his old self at times. You know, he's lost that little yard of pace at the moment. You can tell he's not fully fit, but he's going to be a real asset to us this season if we can get him firing again.
I think that the phrase he just used is absolutely perfect. He looked back to his old self at times, yeah, and that feels to me much more than I would have expected at this point in his recovery. You know, to get on the pitch, to get 70 minutes out of him, and to see a lot of the old Kwame is really exciting. I mean, when he came off, I mean, I was right to bring him off. I think trying to push him for another 20 minutes would have been really stupid. But he didn't look all that tired. I didn't think he looked all that leggy. He was still chasing everything, and that's a real Kwame characteristic, isn't it? He'll chase the ball to the corner flag in the last minute. And I just thought it was wonderful to see. I mean, like I say, if we can get him fully firing, the sooner the better, because his mobility, his aggression, his power in the air, the fact he attacked the 6-yard box makes him look like a nice fit for Paul Mullen, doesn't it? You know, he'll win headers for him. He'll attack the 6-yard box when Mullen drops off.
And just imagine, you know, corners and free kicks, and the corners and bent over throw-ins, Aaron Hayden and defenders marking Aaron Hayden and Kwame Thomas.
Yeah,
that's going to be a handful, isn't it, for any defense? And what I like about him is he brings something that none of the other strikers have. He is a real threat in the air. He wins most headers, doesn't he? He's an absolute unit. He's really good on the ball, and I think he's a really intelligent footballer, isn't he? Because he seems to be in the right place at the right time. He's always in the 6-yard box. He scores a lot of tap-ins, which I think is excellent, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That ball he played down the wing, was it in the second half for Green? When the ball came at an awkward height and he stretched to bring it under control, and then he knew if he let it come down, that the chance was gone, or Green would have run offside, and so he volleyed it on the way back down the line, perfect weight on it. You think that's a bit of class, that a real bit of quality. It's great to see him back, and like you say, he's a monster in the air, isn't he? I mean, Hyde is good in the air, to be fair to him, but Thomas is the sort of centre forward who really frightened centre backs. I mean, last season there were a lot of centre backs who just got absolutely battered by Thomas, didn't they? And it wasn't, what would you say? Probably on an average game, you'd expect centre backs to be winning about 70% of those 5v9 sort of header challenges. But Kwame, you know, there were a few games last season where he was clearly winning more than 50% of the long balls. He can really bully a centre back, and that's exciting. And you called it in the commentary as well, didn't you? The moment you had our first long throw, he said this on Kwame's head, and bang, there it went. So you're dead right.
It's the throw-ins and Kwame Thomas is going to be something that's going to be, say we're 1-0 down and it's the last couple of minutes, you stick him on, him and Aaron Hayden, they're going to be absolute nightmares to mark, both of them, because they don't really lose much in the air, them two. So
And Lennon.
Yeah, very exciting. And Lennon, yeah.
He gets to the end of a lot of stuff, doesn't he? It's not always size. It's your timing. Isn't
Jordan
it?
Davis scores a lot of headers as well. So it's going to be like having a brand new signing, isn't it? Because I really believe that he has a lot of quality. And another player that has a lot of quality that I was just so impressed with was Cleworth, who was in that holding midfield position. It allows Young and Davis to do their thing, and he just sweeps up the mess. And I think for his age, he shows so much maturity, and he had a brilliant goal too to cap it off.
Yeah. I was so sort of starstruck by Jordan Davis's outside the foot goal that I don't think I gave Max Cleworth's goal quite the sort of respect it deserved. I mean, look at it again. Oh my gosh, he got hold of that. But he's a good player, isn't he? He's got terrific promise.
Yeah, he has, and I can't see why he can't play more of that holding midfield role, because it seemed to work really well. It'd be interesting to see against, higher quality opposition, but he is a real promise, isn't he?
Yeah, he played there in the trophy against Leamington last season, and we made him man of the match. So he's, like you said, shown that against weaker opposition, he definitely can play there. I hope he doesn't end up being one of those utility players who, because he's actually good in a number of positions, and because we're probably looking to buy players in and go up divisions, that he doesn't get sort of pigeonholed as a useful utility backup player, because I think he's come on quite a lot as a centre back, and I think he's much more. Well, I can't remember if I said this last week or not, but when they brought on that big target man, Weymouth brought on the big lad at the end, and he caused some problems, where Cleworth dealt with him really well in the air. And I thought, that's good. I think maybe a year ago, you might have physically found that a bit harder. But, I'm really delighted to see his development. I hope his development doesn't mean he gets to be a sort of bloke on the bench because he can fill a few places if someone gets hurt, because he's putting in performances of enough quality to earn a bit of a chance to get on the pitch and develop.
Would you give him a shout on starting Boxing Day?
See, again, I'm saying I hope it doesn't happen, but would I do it? No, probably not. I think I'd go back to the Young, Davis, Jones trio. I think that's a great name for a band. No, hang on, not great. What's that word? Awful name for a band. But I don't know. No, I think I'd stick with the three experienced players, not least because we've been playing well lately with that trio. But he's put his hat into the ring, and I'm a hypocrite.
I think we go with the more experienced players, and I think a manager would, because if it went all wrong, the manager would get the blames. Oh, why are you chucking a young lad in for such an important league game? And it's a lot of pressure, but he seems to be soaking up the pressure. He's played the Notts County home game, which was a big game. I think, why not give him a chance?
He played well against Solihull on the first day of the season as well, which was a very pressured environment, because they really came at us, didn't they? Especially in the first half. And he played well at Ibrox 2 seasons ago, so he's not easily intimidated. I've never seen him have an absolute stinker. Anyway, he's seems like a reliable, safe pair of hands. But it is. I agree. I think you're right. A manager would go for the experienced option. I think I would as well, probably at the moment.
But the good thing that I quite like about the whole situation is that if these so-called more experienced players don't play to their maximum potential and don't have good games, their place is not cemented in, is it? Max Cleworth can come in and take their place, and if he's playing well, why not play him all the time? So it again, yes, we need more midfielders. We need that couple more midfield signings, but having these options of different style midfielders for different games is excellent. And also another thing I'd like to talk about is Kai Evans come on, didn't he?
Yeah.
And Jacob Bickerstaff, so two more promising young talents.
And Bickerstaff did really well, didn't he, with that run down the left-hand side to open things up for Jones's goal. He it was good to see him back as well. Like Cleworth, he's developed well, but he's still got a lot of people to fight past in the queue, to play up front. And then Kai Evans, he was very sparky, didn't he? I enjoyed him. He was quick.
Yeah. Again, and then we're off to the next round of the FA Trophy now. Who have we got in the next round? I've completely forgot.
Folkestone Invicta. Which would be the second
Folkestone
time.
Invicta.
Yeah, second time I've seen them play. My lad and I went to see them about 10 years ago at Chester in the Trophy. We were supporting Folkestone. This time I won.
Oh. But we're in the next round. I think again we play another experimental squad against a team like that, and if we get knocked out, we get knocked out. But if we get through, there is a potential tie at Wembley on the card. So yeah, and there's nothing like a cup run to keep the morale going. So yeah, a positive day, and let's have more. Let's hopefully this starts another big run.
Absolutely. I mean, there's still some of the National League Premier teams are out now. Chesterfield have pulled out, so a couple of names are gone. Yeah, the field's starting to thin out, and we've seen a pattern for smaller teams to get to Wembley, which perhaps says that if teams aren't taking it seriously, maybe we can get a fair distance through while using our squad players, and I would assume that by the end of January, our squad players will have a real depth about them, because we bring in 3 or 4 high quality players. There'll be 3 or 4 players that we now see as first choice who will be rotation players. So we should have enough depth to cope with that, really.
I'm Aaron Hayden, and this is Dragonheart.
Well, apologies for the unscheduled interruption, but I'm afraid I need to jump in here just for a second, because you had a bit of an unfortunate change of circumstances this week while recording the show. We had a guest lined up who I was very excited about, actually, who was going to be talking about the effect of COVID on lower division football, and sadly he was unable to do the interview because he actually got COVID himself and he wasn't well enough at all. So that will come up in a week or two, but in the meantime we had to sort of reorganise our planned schedule for the coming weeks. Because of that, we're going to bring in a different interview instead, but also I might as well bring us up to date with what has happened since we recorded this, because since we recorded the show, the Solihull Moors game has actually been called off. So although we're going to continue with some talk about COVID and about the situation we're in at the moment, you might hear the odd reference. I've tried to get rid of them, but you might hear the odd reference to the Solihull match as if it's going ahead, because this was recorded beforehand. It might be, I suppose, a bit of a blessing that the game was being called off. It's of course been called off because a number of Wrexham players have got COVID, a greater number obviously than last Saturday, because our squad was somewhat denuded for the Gloucester City game. However, well, firstly, our concerns and best wishes go to all those players and their families. We just want them to stay safe and look after themselves. However, it has to be said that from purely a selfish football point of view, maybe it's not the worst thing for Wrexham to play this game later on. Hopefully, by the time we rearrange this game, we'll be allowed to have fans back in the stadium, because there are tentative signs that maybe the Omicron wave is not going to be quite as drastic as people thought. What did the scientists say this morning? Not a hurricane, more of a strong storm. So that's promising. So hopefully we'll have fans back in fairly soon. So maybe we will be able to have that sellout crowd against Solihull after all. Also, obviously, I mean, apart from the players who are ill, there are players coming back from injury. Kwame Thomas would probably benefit from having more minutes in his legs, to be fair, but by the same token probably won't suffer having a Saturday off. And maybe more appositely, Paul Mullen, who of course is so important to Wrexham's plans, such a talented striker, but he has been struggling with an injury the last few weeks. Now he's had a proper long layoff. He didn't play against Gloucester, he won't play against Solihull, and so hopefully that will help him. The game on Tuesday at Altrincham, as things stand at the time of recording this, is still on, as is the game at Notts County on Saturday. But there is a suspicion, of course, that the English government might bring in stricter regulations following Christmas Day. So we need to be careful with that. And of course, Wrexham may have to call off the Altrincham game again because they have a lot of players absent. Remember, we had some absent, for the Gloucester City match. So there could be some overlap here. There could be some players who were part of the way through their 10-day isolation then and would therefore be available for Altrincham, but not for Solihull, if you see what I mean. But then other new cases would overlap and mean that none of them were available for Solihull. I mean, if you think about it, the Gloucester game is 10 days before the Altrincham match. So if a player was out through that, the day before, but is feeling fit, they should theoretically be able to play in the Altrincham game. And the theoreticals become important, of course, because it's not necessarily who's fit and ready to play. It's what we can say to the National League in terms of how many bodies are absent, and once that isolation period ends, the National League are liable to say, well, that's an available player for you then. So it'll be interesting to see if we do play on the Tuesday. I think if you're hoping to go, keep your eyes peeled, look at the club channels and just keep an eye on whether it actually happens or not. Anyway, on with the show. I'm delighted to say that we've got a chat now with a big Wrexham fan, Tim Lewis, who's been supporting Wrexham for a long time and is a real diehard at the racecourse. We actually lined up the interview with him for a different reason, and the main reason, which is looking at things like Football Manager, Fantasy Football, FIFA, that'll come in a future episode. But for now, have a listen to Tim's feelings about not being able to fulfil his regular ritual of going to the racecourse because of COVID.
I'm Harry Lennon and this is Dragonheart.
How sad, and for you as a regular at the racecourse, that certainly the Boxing Day game will have no fans in it. And as we speak, there's no confirmation of if we'll be allowed to stream. So Wrexham Football Club want to stream, no question, and we've got it all in place. But the National League will have to say okay. So that's the situation as we speak. Just, I don't want to for a second say it's not the right decision because public health comes first. But it's a tough one to take for fans who've been just loving the atmosphere and the terrific crowds this season, isn't it?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Like, genuinely heartbreaking for people who love going to watch their football team. It's a lot more of a. I saw Mark Drakeford tweeted, "We're asking you a little more." It's not a little more because we love going to watch Wrexham. It's like the highlight of my week. Anyway, I love it, and it's very, very difficult to think that there's the worst thing about it is I believe in Scotland. Nicola Sturgeon said it's 3 weeks. She's put a 3-week cap on it or something. Whether that'll go on beyond that, but Mark Dreyfus just sort of said there's no time limit on this, as far as I'm aware at the moment. And that's very difficult for people to deal with because we love going there. We love watching our team. I don't go to, I've only been to a few away games in all my time, but I go to the home games every time I can get to a home game. And I love it to bits. I go with my brother and we have a great time. But if I'm here and having to watch the stream, a lot of the time I'm on my own. So I said to you before we started filming this, there's a Simpsons episode that sums up my feelings towards it. And it's the one where Homer eats the fugu fish at the Japanese restaurant and he's got 24 hours before his heart explodes. So I went through the stages of grief with it. So I went through denial, then I went to anger, then I went to fear, then I tried bargaining, and now I'm at acceptance because they're not doing it to annoy us and they're not doing it because they feel like doing it. They're doing it because they have to do it to get the cases down, to protect people in the NHS, to protect people from going into hospital. And I know it's very, very difficult for us to understand that and be okay with that because they're ruining our Christmas, and they're ruining our ability to go and see our football team that we love. And at the end of the day, we just have to sort of grit our teeth and get through the next few weeks, and hopefully we'll be back in there again. And hopefully by the summer, we don't ever have to worry about COVID again, because it'll get mild and it'll go away. We've been through this a long time now, and it's very difficult for everybody, no matter how much money they've got or whatever. Not being able to go and see your football team and having to watch streams where there's no crowd noise is horrible, like genuinely horrible.
I think you speak for the football fan in saying that. That's beautifully put. Absolutely. I mean, my optimism is, yeah, you're right. Drakeford's not set a time limit. His language felt like he was hoping it would be a short-term thing. And also we've shown at the start of this season that we can come back from a shutdown situation to host matches safely. And therefore, hopefully that means that, you know, if we have a bit of a shutdown now, that we can at least, they can look at what we've achieved at the start of last season and see that we can restart sooner, not have a season wiped out again, because it's absolutely essential that the game can continue and that fans can get back in. And you're dead right. I mean, there's good reasons to lock down. Absolutely. I don't argue against the decision. It's just so sad that it has to be done. But hopefully we've shown we can get fans back in grounds much more quickly than we did. Yeah.
My concern with it is that I think that if the people who were making the decisions understood what a match day experience is actually like, I can't speak for Swansea and Cardiff, who are the big teams in Wales, but I go with my brother. We sit in a row with other people, obviously, but it's all outdoors, and the only people we really speak to are the family that sit in front of us every now and again. I never once felt unsafe or in an indoor area where lots of people are breathing and drinking and whatnot. I know the Centenary is open and whatnot, and I see there's lots of people in there. But if it was me making the decision, I would be encouraging people to go out into the stadium, maybe close the bars and close the Centenary or whatever you have to do with that to stop people mixing indoors. But if you stop them going to the game outside, all those 8,000 people, how many of those 8,000 people are going to watch it in their living rooms with other people? So you turn in that big outdoor event into indoor clusters. I don't understand that. And I think the decision's been made by people who don't know enough about going to a football match to understand that it isn't this massively dangerous thing. And I would imagine most of the transmission would happen in the bars afterwards or before, rather than at the actual game. That's the bit I don't understand. But
yeah, it's there's so many different areas and complexities to this, and each ground's going to be different. Each set of fans are going to be different as well, isn't it? It's it's sort of blanket response is always going to be something that goes down badly with some, if not all, I suppose, isn't it? It's I don't know. It's a real shame. I just hope that fans are able to get back in the racecourse soon, and I hope that you're right at the front of them, giving them a cheer, roaring on your latest Football Manager heroes.
Thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Ted. It's really a pleasure to catch up with you. Thank you for inspiring our Premier League in the Fantasy League. I keep saying Premier League rather than I don't know what's wrong with me. Thank you for inspiring that. And if you have any more bright ideas, you'd better let us know what they are.
From the heart of your community, this is Calon FM.
Game under closed doors.
Yeah, that's right. And to be fair, I don't think there's any alternative. We have to consider what's best in the interests of public health, public safety. And this Omicron wave looks terrifying in the numbers it's already churning out. So, yeah, it's a damn shame for us in terms of we was going to be pretty much a sellout. So that's a real pity. but we have to remember our priorities, and getting as many people safely through this wave is, and allowing the NHS to not be overwhelmed is what's crucial. So Wales has done it. Scotland's brought in a limit of 500 fans for outdoor events, and one would assume that once the political necessity of delivering Christmas has been carried out in England, they'll do something similar. So it's a pity, but it has to be done. As I think the club statements put it very well. It's a shame, but it's the right decision.
It was always going to be a threat, wasn't it, this season? I think a lot of fans, in many ways, it's hard to disagree with them at the fact that they can go watch a Premier League game crammed in a pub, but can't go watch the game in the ground. You can see why a lot of people are getting frustrated by it, and it'd probably be better off in some ways just to shut down completely rather than it being confusing. But it's I'm not getting political, but I can see why a lot of fans are very frustrated.
Well, yeah, I mean, I totally get that emotional reaction to it. You can go and watch the game, like you said, in a crowded pub or in the garden of Downing Street, but you can't get together at a grounds to watch it. Got away with that one, did I? Oh, but it is the right decision. It's how things have been handled politically, which is wrong, and the mixed messages the politicians have given us and the inconsistent rules that we are faced with are what is really difficult to comprehend. But the bottom line is this is still a public health emergency. We still have a global pandemic. These sorts of measures are clearly necessary to try and control it and to save lives. So, football really isn't terribly important compared to those priorities, is it?
Oh, yeah, and I have to agree there. It's just one of them. We all knew it was going to be a risk this season at some point. You'd have to be pretty naive to think that it wasn't going to affect our season at any point. It's just I feel like I can feel a lot of fans with frustration, and it just is what it is. We're just going to have to get on with it, and it's going to be played behind closed doors, which I think is a crying shame for the momentum of the players too.
Well, absolutely. The amount of backing they would get with the crowd we were going to have would have been terrific, wouldn't it? I suppose if I look at it sort of cold-heartedly, when it's rearranged, you'd hope we're going to get a crowd fairly similar to that. And then we'll have the situation of when I'm saying rearrange, it's not going to be rearranged. Ignore me, right? So that 9,000 is gone. But I think the Welsh government has this time acted early rather than late and has put up a £300 million grant for compensating sports events. So we should be able to recoup our losses, at least from that. The Premier League money has come down to the National League teams as well. Now, as you may have guessed from our earlier conversation, I'm not convinced that the National League will necessarily distribute it intelligently or fairly. They've already said it's going to be 50% to our league and 50% spread across the other two leagues. It's a nice arbitrary decision, isn't it? And let's not look at individual club circumstances. Let's just split her up. Let's just split her up into equal chunks, hand it to everybody, and then some people win and some people lose. What a wonderful way to run a sporting organisation. But not that I'm suggesting that they run them out the back of a news agents or anything. They're big time. They're big time. But but there is going to be money coming in. Financially, we don't have to worry too much, of course, luckily, because we're in our current situation. But the owners do want us to be able to run ourselves at a profit, and so therefore it's good that we will get that funding coming in. I'm slightly worried about another element of the COVID situation that could hit us, which is the transfer window, because it seems that certainly the pattern at the higher end of the game is clubs are not willing to be loaning players out because they want to stockpile their squad against people, players having problems. So, for example, there was a suggestion that Joe Gomez of Liverpool was going to get loaned out because he's coming back from injuries, and Liverpool at the moment, unlike last season, have got centre backs to cover. But they're not going to do that now because Van Dijk's got COVID at the moment. If you have 3 or 4 players out from COVID, you suddenly need 3 or 4 extra players in your squad. So it sounds like January's window is going to be pretty quiet. And it sounds like a lot of the loans that they would make of fringe players down to, say, the Championship's not going to happen much. And that's got to have a trickle-down effect on us. And we're actually setting out to try and spend money in January. I suppose in a way it doesn't matter because Cambridge didn't want to release Mullen. Cheltenham didn't want to release Tozer. But we got the money to say, well, but we are meeting your demands and we'll meet the players' demands. So maybe in some ways that doesn't matter. But I'm slightly scared of a stagnant transfer window hitting us because when we're the only team restricted by a transfer window, if you see what I mean.
But there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be struggling if in England there is a shutdown of no fans. There's going to be a lot of teams who could potentially be struggling and will want a quick cash grab. So we may be able to buy some of League One and Two's finest players, hopefully.
Why stop
or even the National League. Oh, yeah. Why you can stop there, yeah. But yeah, I think, when it comes to COVID, if that's the most of our worries as Wrexham Football Club, then it's not really important, is it? Really, if we don't sign the players we want to sign, there's a lot more pressing things going on in this world at the moment.
You're 100% right. Absolutely. I'm just, a bit concerned as well that, okay, theoretically, at the moment as it stands, all those away fans going to Altrincham and Notts County will be going there. But I have a funny feeling those games might be under threat by the time that the waivers hit. Certainly, with so few actions being taken around the UK, as the reluctance to have a lockdown affecting Christmas, I think we might be rearranging those matches, maybe, I don't know, or playing behind closed doors. So, well, we'll see. I don't know inside knowledge, but it just feels illogical to me that things get quickly better after Boxing Day.
And let's hope the fans somehow, some way, get to watch the games as well, even if it is behind closed doors. Because the fans shouldn't be missing out, really, because it's not the fans' fault. And and I think you've got to feel sorry, not just for COVID people who are going. Christmas is a very, very tough time of year for many fans. Mental health, people have lost loved ones due to the pandemic, due to natural deaths. So we'd like to keep them in our thoughts because 90 minutes Boxing Day football after tough Christmases usually is a great way to escape everyday life around this period.
Well, you're so right, and that's why maybe this would be a good point to remind everyone of Dragon Chat on Thursday nights, which offers the sort of mental health support, expert support, I should say, that can really help people through this tricky periods. And it'd be, if you're struggling, there are many options, and that's definitely one of them. But you're never alone. You're never alone. There's always somewhere you can turn. And as you rightly say, that sort of thing, and the pandemic in general, just puts football into perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And it does show how football is a really important part of people's lives and how it does keep people going through tough times. And, as I'd like to echo that, if anyone's struggling listening to this, reach out to someone. You're not alone, because Christmas is a very tough time. It's not the happy, sparkly time. For a lot of people, it's happy, sparkly, fun, amazing. For others, it is real, haunting and scary and lonely. So, Dragon Chat, or just talk to a friend if you're struggling. That's what I have to say on that.
It's I've seen a few different people attributed to this quote. Ancelotti and Saki and different people, but this phrase, football is the most important of the unimportant things. It's quite a nice phrase to remember in this situation. Life's more important. Football's very important, but only of the unimportant things. Yeah.
Well, I think, the way a lot of politicians look at it, a lot of people look at it, it's just 11 blokes kicking a football on a field. Why do people get so emotional? It's not just about that. It's about having a pint with your mates before going to the game. It's about talking to people about football, about the sense of community, about being part of something, about feeling like you're not alone. You're all supporting your team. You're together, and I think it's a lot for people's mental health to be a part of something.
Yeah.
Seeing the same faces that sit by you, having that little chat. That little chat that you talk to someone while you're having your tea or coffee before the game may really help them. And if you take that away from them, it's really terrible. And I do agree. Public health is really important, but mental health is important too. It's just such a hard decision for this government, really, when you think about it. So, yeah, there's a lot of things to keep in mind this Boxing Day game. It's very sad, and from a selfish point of view, I'm gutted. I'm not going to be able to do my usual festivities, but sometimes the greater good. Well, most of the time, it's for the greater good, isn't it? So, yeah.
Exactly right. Exactly so. Those little rituals that we have at football matches, the same people that we see every week at the same point, at the same time. Yeah, it's part of what's special, isn't it? It's like away days in football, isn't it? Where the match is almost secondary to the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. But we have to make this sacrifice, but in order to hopefully get back to normality a lot quicker. And certainly that was the tone in the Welsh government's statement, was that they're hopeful that by acting now we can get back to normal fairly quickly.
Yeah, and let's hope so, because I think it seems a bit more crushing this season because we've had the fans in and there's been such a good feel-good factor. And, the atmosphere has been electrifying at the racecourse, which we haven't seen for many, many years.
Yeah.
And that anticipation's been brilliant. It's going to be so sad to see no fans in the stadium for the game on Boxing Day, which would have been electrifying. But I keep on saying it is what it is. And and there's another great thing, which I think is going to be quite poignant and iconic in the future, is the fact that we're going to be playing in our away kit at home with no fans. That is going to be really iconic, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's supporting Shelter's initiative, isn't it, for raising awareness about people. I mean, about homelessness. Goodness me! I mean, homelessness is such a tragic situation anyway. But during a pandemic, it's very hard to conjure with what people are going through on the streets. And so the idea that you wear your away shirts to show like that there is no home is a lovely idea. Wrexham are adopting it, as are many other clubs, not just in our league and the Football League, but we're looking at some of the names, weren't we? And teams in the Welsh League and the lower levels of that as well are doing it. And I think it's admirable just to, again, make the message that football is inclusive. I mean, it's so cold. I mean, two of the last three home games were so cold, but you're surrounded by people, which keeps you artificially warm. What it must have been like on those nights to be out on the, sleeping on hard surfaces like concrete. Oh my goodness, I can't imagine. So I'm glad we're doing that. And like I said, it is iconic, isn't it? That wearing the away shirt and a particularly notable away shirt as well at home. And also, well, look, this is a stupid thing to say, so I apologize in advance. But in terms of the optics, shall we say, of how it's going to look, making that statement in front of the empty seats maybe will lead to some quite powerful pictures.
Yeah, it is. It really is, and it's going to look quite cool. I think playing in the away kit at home anyway would have been quite a cool thing anyway. And I wonder if it's ever happened in the past. I probably should have asked you this pre-pod.
I mean, it does happen, doesn't it? Sometimes in the Premier League, teams sometimes choose to, don't they, or wear their like end of the season or something just to try and flog it.
Or if the referee can't see between the two colours, sometimes. I remember years. Do you remember the year the Boston game season? I forgot the year. Torquay and Boston played each other. And Boston had to wear Torquay's away kit because the referee for the home and the away kit clashed. That might have happened. I just wonder if it has ever happened in the past. But I do apologise. I probably should have asked you.
I've got a weird. Oh gosh, I've got a weird half recollection that maybe in one of our European games we wore an away shirt at home for some reason, but I'm not. It's not coming to me exactly. The exact game, so I may be mixed up. But yeah, I mean, sometimes that happens as well because kit men bring the wrong kit. And so people end up wearing the opposing shirts. I remember there's something odd. We played Peterborough at home, but it wasn't us who changed. I can't remember if they wore our away shirt or I think it was their goalkeeper. I think their goalie shirt clashed with all the shirts that could be used. And so we gave him a Wrexham shirt, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I'm sure there's something.
There's definitely got to be something. We're a very old club, so it's probably happened way in the past anyway. So
Boston, of course. The ironic thing is Chris Llewellyn losing his shirts during that match, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And funnily enough, my friend was the one that caught his match shirt and give him his shirt. So he was wearing a child's shirt from the season before.
Yeah.
When he did that assist for Michael Proctor's last goal as well, which was absolutely hilarious, isn't it?
Well, right, talk about marginal gains. There you are. Wearing a child's shirt. Somehow improves it. Streamlining, I suppose, isn't it? Getting in the wind tunnel in a kid's shirt, and he's like a rocket.
But let's talk about Boxing Day as a fixture in general. So, it's going to be an exciting game. We're neck to neck in the table, aren't we? It was a close game last time we played them, and this is a real 6-pointer, isn't it?
Well, they got Joe Sparrow, of course, who's one of the better players in our division. Scored twice, 2 fantastic goals against us. And there'll be a test. They've always had a reputation as being a rugged team, but they're more of a footballing team now. And it'll be really interesting to see how we shape up against them because we're starting to improve at home, but it's still not quite there. So it'll be interesting to see how we can actually deal with a side that are strong like that.
Yeah, it's going to be real impressive. They have players like Kyle Storer as well, who's really good, don't they? That they're a real quality outfit. So I'm really looking forward to watching the game, and hopefully all the fans get to watch the game some way, through a stream or something. We don't know anything about that yet. So it's a game that I was really, really looking forward to watching in the stands, but it is what it is.
I mean, I think it'll be an interesting test for us. It's an interesting test with a theory that people are putting out, which I got to say I think is nonsense. That somehow our players are intimidated by having big crowds all the time. So I don't buy that at all. For me, professional footballers wouldn't play in front of big crowds. But, we're playing for the nobody. Let's see if it makes a difference. If we battered them 12-0, maybe we'll have to step back and suggest there was something to our fear of crowds.
Do you not think there is anything in it at all then? Football players do want to play in front of big crowds, but, there is a lot more pressure, isn't there?
Right.
Contrasting our away form to our home form.
I'm a little wary of... I don't want to totally dismiss it. Obviously, people are human. There's a statement for you. There's an episode title. Some people get more edgy, more wound up than others. However, I find it difficult to conjure with, really. Professional footballers they thrive on the crowd. They thrive on the support. We brought a lot of players down from the Football League where playing in front of big crowds wouldn't be an alien thing, and that's deliberate because we are buying players that we think will step up to big occasions. We are buying players that we expect to be performing with us in higher levels. And then if you want to, I don't know, say that let's point the finger at maybe players who aren't used to that. Max Cleworth doesn't look scared to me. And as we said earlier, he's turned up to be counted in some real high pressure games, but he doesn't look frightened.
But even Paul Mullins said in a recent interview I heard that he wasn't used to the amount of the crowds that we've had, and he's played for big teams like Tranmere. He said this was the biggest crowds he's played in front of. So, and he's our star man.
But did he say it was a problem?
He didn't say it was a problem, no. But the players we've drafted in, Ben Tozer played at Cheltenham, didn't he? And Aaron Hayden played at Carlisle. Were they getting 9,000 crowds at home every week?
I accept that. Yeah, absolutely. Although I would say Carlisle are a fierce bunch. I've been up to Carlisle a few times, and they're quite intimidating. So I think they can replicate the sort of passion that our fans show. No, I just think they've also been playing in their leagues against teams like Sunderland and Portsmouth.
I agree.
I just don't buy it. I think I'm accepting it's feasible that some players might get a bit edgy if the crowd turn on them. I buy that, but
it's also not just the pressure of the attendances. There's a documentary. There's now a lot of eyeballs at the club. For example, we're one of the most played Football Manager teams now, aren't we? It's a lot more, isn't it? They could become celebrities or cult heroes. It could be a lot of make or break for their whole careers as well. I think there's a lot more factors in rather than just the crowds itself. It's what's coming with the crowd and what's coming with the club at the moment.
Yeah, true. I again would say that when we've seen plenty behind the scenes with the documentary crew around, and the players don't seem at all bothered by it or concerned by it. I think they're used to it by now. They've been following around last year as well, the ones who are here. So I like your point about it being make or break, but then this again comes down to sort of professional characteristics and the character of a successful sports person. You want those make and break moments. I think fans sometimes fear make or break moments. They think, oh gosh, this is a big game. I'm worried, what if we lose? Whereas players are thinking, right, well, if they've got the right mentality, this is a situation I can capitalize upon now, and I can, when people see how good I am, I will go upwards. I will achieve more. So I'm reluctant to go along with it too much. I'm a little confused by the home performances. I feel what went wrong more was people talk about Parkinson being defensive, and I'm not convinced he is. I think there have been a few games where we've started well, got the first goal, we've continued to go for it, and then two things have happened. One, we haven't got the second goal, and I can't explain that because we've made chances, but the second one hasn't gone in. So I can't fully explain that. But then other teams start to adapt to what we were doing, and we don't seem to react very well to that. So when other teams adapt and start doing something different and taking the game back to us, I don't think we always adapt well to them doing that to us. And I don't think that's being defensive. I think it's just us getting a bit outmaneuvered in away games as well. Although, to be fair, I think Weymouth are the only team who really came and parked a bus at the racecourse this season so far. But nonetheless, when teams playing at home, they are going to come at us more than they will at the racecourse. And we get space to run into. And that's why we've started to run riot, especially since we've been playing, as we mentioned earlier, those fast wing backs, because we hit those pockets of space that they behind so much sooner. Our transitions are so quick now. So I think that's the reason. I think teams, like I say, only one team has really come and parked the bus, but teams aren't as adventurous away from home. They're not going to commit loads of players forwards, even when they're breaking. And so there's not as much chance for us to hit them. I think that's the reason for a discrepancy between home and away. But I can't explain why we don't get that second goal. It's weird.
It's I was, to be fair, mainly I was playing a bit more devil's advocate with you there before. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating. I'm excited. Roll on Boxing Day now, and from myself, and I'm talking on your behalf too, we wish all the fans a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I think it's going to be the last show of the year, is it?
Last show before Christmas, but
last show before Christmas.
Yeah, we'll have another.
Yes, we will have another show. So it's going to be the last show of Christmas. It's been a great year of Dragonheart, hasn't it?
Absolutely, really loved it, Chay. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure, and well, it's just been so exciting following Wrexham on this journey. And next year we can keep doing it. No, stop making me think this is the last one of the year.
Well,
Next
last one
week
before
and
Christmas.
next year, we'll carry on doing it.
Of course, yeah, we will be back next week, breaking down the Notts County and that's the Altrincham game, won't we? So, yeah, there's plenty to talk about too. And on behalf of myself, behalf of Mark, Merry Christmas. We hope everyone has a great one. Stay safe, not to catch COVID. Don't drink too much either. That's it from me.
Nice one.
This has been Dragonheart.
This is Sean Brisley. This is Dragonheart.